Hello, and welcome to the Sweet Talking Podcast with your host, Nefertiti. It's great to see you again, as always. And we are joined tonight with our guest, FreshEZ, but I just call him Fresh. I think he prefers Fresh also. But yeah, welcome, Fresh.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a very, very brief rundown of the podcast in case you're unfamiliar. I'll probably be doing these intros just so, like, for a couple more podcasts, and then I'll probably stop since they'll be like in the first 10 or so of the podcasts. But just so you're aware, the whole point of the Sweet Talking Podcast, the goal otherwise, is to create a space where people in VRChat can voice their opinions, voice anything that they want to, really, in the space of not being judged, of being heard loud and clear, and to have me giving them all of the attention that they may not receive if they were to, for example, bring it up in a public space or with one of their friends. So my goal is to just allow people to be able to express their thoughts about VRChat and other things, whether it be personal or gaming related or anything of the like. So I hope you will enjoy tonight's podcast. This is a very, very, I guess I would say this is a special one. I mean, they're all very special, but this one's particularly special because Fresh is actually Fresh is the first stranger in VRChat that I actually, formed a legitimate friendship with. So yeah, so Fresh was one of the very first people that I met, and I became pretty close to in VRChat when I first started. So with all that out of the way, Fresh, for those people who may be watching who don't know who you are and what you're about, the things that make you you, how long you've been on VRChat. So just give a description. It can be brief, it can be long-winded, doesn't matter, but just a bit of information about who you are, what you like to do, how long you've been in VRChat. These are all examples, but you can feel free to embellish as you please.
Yeah, okay, well, as she introduced me, I'm Fresh. The easy is simply just there because easy is typically what separates me from other Freshes on the internet. It just allows me to have my name.
Yeah.
But as for my time on VRChat, I've been on here since what? No, before I turned 18. I think I joined it about a year after it first came out.
So how long?
Since the beginning.
How long has that been?
Ah, man, I don't even remember when the game came out, to be honest with you. I mean, I was still in school.
Yeah, I think it came out like, it was like 2018, maybe? No, 2016, maybe even. But like, 'cause like you said you were 18,
yeah.
So, I mean, if you want to give your age, do you feel comfortable giving your age?
Of course, I don't mind. I'm 22. So,
Okay.
I joined it when I was 17.
All right, so you've been on VRChat for, give or take, about 4 years or so, yeah?
Yeah, around there.
Okay.
But I've experienced pretty much everything but VRChat in terms of anyone hearing any kind of trend that's been on here. I've pretty much experienced it all. If anyone remembers Uganda Knuckles when that was really popular, you couldn't go anywhere without seeing a frickin' Uganda Knuckles.
They surely knew the way.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
Of course. But as for what I like to do, I mean, pretty much anything. Every once in a while, I end up streaming art or games. I used to do it a lot about a year ago. I'm trying to pick it back up. And as for like my hobbies and everything, I mean, obviously art, streaming and whatnot, and playing games. But to be a little bit more specific, here soon, with the help of my coworker, I'm going to start looking into developing music, and then art already. And I mean, other than that, it's just trying to find people and ways to spend my time throughout the day. Nothing too specific. but most of it's generally pretty chill.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it does seem that way, and you have a wide variety of interests, very similar to just me as well, having just a wide variety of things that are very interesting and that you kind of like. Some you dabble in, some you really go full force in. Yeah.
No, of course, of course. One of the biggest things recently that I've sort of dived head first into is, which I'll explain here in a minute, is getting back into streaming. That's something that I used to do about a year ago, like I said. New account, whole new thing, and I got up to about 200 some followers before I ended up having to hunker down and start focusing on real life stuff. But now I'm at a point where I'm trying to focus on it again in hopes of making something of it, not necessarily have it be like a job or anything like that, but definitely have it be like my main focus.
Yeah, that's I mean, I can definitely relate. I also am a streamer, as you well know, so the whole enterprise of going into it and really trying to see like where it goes and how it evolves is always very, very interesting. And it's not for everyone, but like what about streaming?
No.
Yeah, what about streaming it makes it worth coming back to for you?
Well, for me, it's just something that I find fun. Generally, it's what I would normally be doing, except more talking to myself out loud rather than in my own head. And it's also the people. So the connections that you get with complete strangers. I mean, it's sort of like VRChat in a way. It's the connections that you can get with complete strangers. Like some of the people that I would consider my closer friends, I've never met in person. I don't know what they look like, but I know I can reach out to them because I've had an interaction with them, a meaningful connection through that experience. And so it's definitely the connections to be the foremost and the most upfront thing, but I would definitely say that makes it worth it.
So would you say that your experiences in VRChat as well as streaming have really contributed to the people that you spend the majority of your time with? Because you said you're making those connections, but maybe there's something else more to that.
Yeah, actually, I mean, my buddy Ghost.
Yes.
I heard that you guys play.
Yeah.
I met him. I'm pretty sure he was the first person I actually ever friended on VRChat.
Oh.
That I actually had as a friend.
He's a cool dude. I had him on the podcast.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. But come to find out, he lives really close to me. And me and him don't talk as much. We're generally pretty much keep to ourselves when it comes to like our friendship. But whenever it comes to any, either of us messaging each other, it just picks up right where I left off. It's not like anything new or there was a time between it. It's just he is by far, I would say, when it comes to people that you meet on the internet, he is by far my best friend. It doesn't matter what's going on, how long we've talked, how long we haven't talked. Either of us, it's just, if we have problems, we reach out. It's just, I cherish him, and I've met him online, and it's one of those things that until you have something like that happen online, you just won't understand.
Yeah. Ghost is a very, very, he's a very interesting character, but, I've hung out with him a fair bit, and, he's definitely just an honest, relatively, he's just an honest, upstanding guy, and, yeah, like, I definitely, like, feel that, like, the idea of having someone that you met online, of all places, that you can really connect with. I mean, it seems so ubiquitous nowadays. It seems like this is just the thing that, like, you probably make your first friend online these days when you're like, you have younger people getting on VR at like 7 years old and stuff like that. It's just, it's so possible. It's so easy to just meet new people and to make those connections. But it's when they really kind of land, like it did for you and Ghost, that I think that's really what makes it really special. And that's really cool. That's really cool. Have you... Yeah, go ahead.
The thing about, like, you know, you said, you know, like, down to, like, 7 years old, is that, you know, I'm 22, so when I grew up, it was, like, in the peak of, like, the trash talk Call of Duty lobbies. That was generally what my experience was, growing up playing games online. And the thing is, like, with VR, specifically VR, and then Twitch streaming to a certain degree, seeing how it's been integrated into most, you know, video game consoles nowadays, it's definitely far outreached what it was when, you know, I first discovered it.
Absolutely.
But the reason why I bring up what I experienced when I was that age, or probably a little bit older than that, but when it comes to experiencing things online and, you know, experiencing people online, it's completely changed when it comes to what I experienced and what they're experiencing. They are actually experiencing people and being able to communicate and talk and actually make a friend.
Yeah.
And I think that's just, it's very fascinating, because when I grew up, you know, in the same space, it was very much, you know, what you think of, you know, when Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 came out and people just talking a bunch of crap in the lobby. It's a very different space now, and it's nice to see that it's been able to hit some of the younger generations and actually have a positive impact.
So are you saying that, like, would you say that it's predominantly become a more friendlier, or it's grown to be a more friendlier space for people to actually make friends? Or are you saying, like, the actual, like, previous, like, Xbox Modern Warfare chat rooms are no longer as, like, trash talky anymore?
What I'm trying to say is more along the lines of a range of people, or a range of types of people, has expanded to a point where you hear a child on the internet, and it's not just immediate trash talk or tell them to shut up or anything like that. It's not that anymore, like how it was for me. It's grown into a space that's been significantly more inclusive of the younger generations, and having a positive impact on how they experience the internet and the types of people that are on the internet. Yeah,
I would definitely agree with that. It has, I would say it has improved, but I'm glad that I can ask you that, because, you know, you said you're 22. I've lived a long time. We'll say that. I've lived a long time. So I've seen how things have evolved with the availability of technology and all the various means of people, how we've communicated and how we've evolved in that communication structure, just all throughout these many, many years. And if there's one thing that I feel like that has really gotten lost in the midst of that, you know, that freedom to communicate and that wider range of individuals, like you said, is that ability to really connect with the person. Like, I feel like in some ways that has really kind of become dampened. Like it was an explosion of it. It was so readily available, and it was so exciting. But now that we've kind of all, for the most part, have become accustomed to it, would you say that it's just become a little bit more difficult to genuinely connect with someone, because we may, well, not we, but people may forget that there's a person on the other side of that avatar or that username? So, I mean, is that something that you've experienced?
100%. Yeah.
Well, I mean, not directly for you, but I mean, from your perspective of, like, just observing.
Oh, yeah, I mean, even just from my experience, I think, you know, I've had it happen. But I feel like with it, being able to expand into, I mean, groups of people that you never would have expected to before, like the younger generation, and, you know, it's reached so far. But the general issue now, when it comes to the quality of a connection between people is that it has gotten to quantity rather than quality.
Right, right. Yep.
And just in general, the space has gotten so
Saturated.
fast. I would say, yeah, saturated is a correct word, but when I say fast, I mean you can experience, 300-400 people in 2 days. Whereas before, you could definitely experience quite a number of people, but with it being, for lack of better words, a more toxic community, those people that you clicked with, you made a more quality connection compared to nowadays, where you can experience so many people so fast, you don't have time to really analyze what kind of people, or what kind of person people are. Therefore, you lose that quality. And it just becomes, I have 300-400 people
it becomes a number
on my friends list.
Yeah. And like that makes people feel better. People feel good about that, and it shouldn't be that way.
100%.
Yeah, I in my own experience, I genuinely have done everything possible to just avoid that overexposure to so many people. Obviously, VRChat allows you to meet a whole slew of people. On better days, it allows you to experience, a large swath of people, and it's just the ability to, like, when I friend people on any platform, I friend them not because I think that, like, not just because I'm just going to add you because you're interesting. Well, I mean, that's part of it, for me at least. But I try not to just willy-nilly friend people. Like, if I'm going to friend you, I have the expectation of myself that I'm going to reach out to you. But I don't often feel as though people have that same expectation of themselves. That, like, if they friend me, then they don't have the expectation that they're going to reach out to me. It's just I become another number on their list. And I genuinely try not to have that happen. And I've taken great pains to do that in VRChat, to not allow myself to just have, like, person, friend. So have you had to deal with that or confront that for yourself?
Slightly. And the reason why I say slightly is because there are people on my friends list right now that I have no idea who the hell they are. I don't remember them. I don't, it's just, it comes, at least for me anyway, with time. At one point it may have been significantly closer between me and this other person. And then, you just sort of drift apart. That's part of the internet. You just never really know what's going to happen between you and whatever stranger you end up meeting. And so, a lot of, at least in terms of VRChat, it's a little bit more of a pain for me to, cull my friends list. But on other platforms, I rarely go through and it's like, all right, I haven't talked to this person in a while. I let them know. I send them a message, be like, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. If you're still wanting to be friends or something like that, feel free to send me a message. And, typically, whenever people do message back, it sparks up, it starts bringing it closer together. Whereas people that don't, typically by then they're just removing themselves. And it sucks because, knowing that I used to talk to that person for whatever reason, there was definitely more of a closeness between me and that person, and it just sort of fades off. It sucks, but at the same time, though, it makes room and more time for, the next experience that's going to, be meaningful.
Yeah. I mean, there is the idea of being able to, cherish each interaction, regardless of how long it lasts, is something that I had to learn myself. I used to be the kind of person who was just like, well, why should I even bother talking to this person if the chance of me ever speaking to them again is never going to happen? But I've learned through I have a close friend who isn't involved in any of the goings on that I really do currently, but I have a still very close friend who taught me the value of just, having those those connections in the moment, even if they don't go anywhere. And I've definitely had my share of people who I genuinely wanted to build something with and have something grow and blossom from that. And the desire didn't appear to be mutual. And there's something about that that's kind of sad. It's just like it's an experience that was there and now it's gone. And it's, I don't know, I think that's something I think more people need to kind of remember. Or maybe I'm just too sentimental. Maybe I'm just too sentimental about it. But I try to really keep in touch with those who I add on my friends list, and so I could have more of those experiences. But meeting new people is always nice.
Yeah, for sure. And when it comes to like keeping in touch with people, especially people that you meet online, I can say VRChat as a whole is definitely something that I think is a positive experience if you let it be. But yeah, I mean, when I met you, I believe that was the first day that I actually got my VR headset, and so it was my first experience actually here.
Yeah,
and
that's crazy that you met me at that exact point in time.
It's just lots of coincidences, just put things together, end up with a whole picture, and it's ended up being a really nice picture, and I'm happy to have met you. But what I was saying is since being able to experience it, being here, being able to see myself in the space.
Yeah.
When it comes to meeting new people after that point, I've definitely had a lot more activity when it comes to, messaging people and, actually having a back and forth between, a friend. It's not just me being, hey, how you doing? And then they just say, quick little conversation and they fade off. It's been a lot more back and forth and genuine friendships since actually being able to get in VR.
Yeah. So the experience, can you, for those who may be unfamiliar, could you maybe give a description of what it's like comparatively, like your experience and just using desktop as opposed to being here? I mean, you gave a nice kind of intro to that, but can you compare the two just so people can maybe paint a picture for themselves?
No, of course. So, experience varies by person, obviously. But when it comes to me and being on desktop, up until, this year, it's always been, I'm in VRChat, it's fun, hey, there's someone that I met, and they're pretty nice, and I would go, hang out and have, jokes and laughs and whatnot. It's, pretty much the standard, experience regardless of what you are doing and how you experience it. But for me, I always felt this level of detachment. You know what I mean? Because you can play on desktop, you're like, haha, this is fun, but you're over there like this. It's like, oh man, this is so cool. But with VR specifically, being able to be here and whatnot, I know I have controllers in my hands, I know that. But if you're able to look past the fact that you have a thing on your face and you have controllers in your hand, if you're able to get yourself to the point where you can ignore that, you are significantly more grounded in the experience than what you would ever expect on desktop. I think the easiest way to word it is, think of an action game or a cutscene out of Call of Duty or something like that. You're sitting there, you're watching, say, you're playing it on Xbox or something like that. Sitting there with a controller on your couch, man, this is a cool cutscene. But imagine blocking out everything else. And for the sense of the example, being able to ignore the fact that you have controllers and stuff on your face. Being here and looking at it, and then being in it. It's entirely different. Same experience, but you experience it differently. And it's just amazing to see and experience for myself the difference between I have friends, I'm playing a game, this is cool, I'm having fun, to being in it.
Yeah, I guess I'm a bit fortunate that I was able to experience VR for the first time. Well, VRChat at the very least, directly. I was directly put into VR, and there was no desktop usage for me. Every moment I've spent in VRChat has been, well, other than like minor troubleshooting otherwise, but pretty much every minute has been spent in VR for VR. So to me, like having that perspective of being able to be in the game and just being in the moment and that sense of detachment, I think that's really, really cool. And I wish I don't know what it is, but I cannot seem to like detach myself. That detachment that you speak of forgetting that you have controls in your hands, forgetting that you're there have been like maybe a few times that I can't even recall, but I think there have been like a couple where I've forgotten that I'm wearing a headset. But I've very rarely have been able to completely just be engrossed to the point where I forget that I'm even in VR. And I think for a lot, I guess for me personally, I think it's because I still have to use the controllers to move around. I still have joysticks near my thumbs, so I have to always kind of be aware of like how I'm moving and where I'm positioned and everything. So I guess that alone makes it almost impossible for me to just disconnect, and I would love to be able to do that. Like, is that something that just came naturally for you when you got your VR headset, the disconnection aspect, or does that happen all the time? Does it happen sometimes?
Well, I'll say that in a way, even when I was on desktop, to a certain degree, I still have that. The disconnect that I experience more often now since I have a headset. But back then, it was extremely situational. Depends on how interested I am in whatever's going on, how drawn in I am to what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
But majority of the time, it was, I'm at my computer, and, But when it comes to having the headset, I mean, for the first, I don't know, I'd say probably a couple days, I can't really put a number on it. It was, okay, I'm getting used to it, joysticks, buttons, I have to learn how to do things. But now it just comes so incredibly natural that it's just, I can focus entirely on what is happening in here. Therefore, the mental image of myself, I can put in here. So for me, I would say it came naturally. It's just getting used to having the stuff on. It's a lot like, when you first get glasses or something like that. You notice the glasses the entire time.
Right, yeah.
And then eventually it just becomes natural, and you forget they're on your face. It's a lot like that.
Yeah, but I think with glasses, like you would wear glasses every day. I think if I were in VR every day, I would like, I'd like to hope that I'd be able to get to that point of disconnection, but I'm only in VR gear twice a week, if that. So I think that's why there's like a lack of that occurring for me. What would you say so? Or like, how often were you in VR for that to occur?
Well, when I got my headset, I was in VR every day, all day. On days that I worked, it was before I went to work, came home, put it on, that was in VR all the time. And also in my experience is since, because when I was on desktop, I played it for a long time, but then I also fell off for a little while, just because it's like, okay, there's only so much I can do on desktop, and if I'm going to continue to play the game and experience the, I would call this more of a platform.
Yeah.
Experience the platform, I wouldn't be in it. I popped on every once in a while, but it was very much so I'm waiting until I get a headset. But since I made that decision, I turned 21, and I was like, all right, cool, I can, get, adult beverages. And I don't want to act as if it's a good thing, because it's not. Always do everything responsibly.
Of course, yeah.
But, I mean, you remember the night that we met?
Yeah.
I was this little tiny thing, out of my mind.
It was so funny, and I was so close to just being like, yeah, let's get out of here. Like I was with Cal at the time, so I'm like, yeah, let's just go. But I didn't, because I thought you were interesting.
I appreciate it.
And you were funny. You were very, very funny.
I appreciate it. But when it comes to like my experience, where I think it would differ from the average user, is one, knowing that I was able to put myself into it just naturally anyways, and then having the impaired effects.
Of drinking.
Definitely, yeah. I would say sped up the process compared to normal. So like when it comes to like you, who's in VR gear twice a week, you know what I mean? You can get there. It will take you significantly longer. It's just, it's like experiencing wearing clothes, You just sort of get used to it, you feel it on you, but you just ignore it, It's like, yeah, I have a shirt on. It's pretty much exactly like that. It's just something that you get used to, and you're able to ignore it at some point. And then from there, it's just, this is where I'm at. I feel the shirt, and in my experience, I don't have a big enough play space to stand up and do anything, so I'm always in a chair. It's the same thing. It's like, I know I'm in a chair, but I'm here. I'm experiencing this, like you are here. You're not, wherever you are in the real world. Yeah. You are here for me. So it's one of those things that I think it will vary entirely on who the type of person is. But I feel like everyone can get to that point, and it's something that I would recommend if you can, because it changes how you perceive everything on this platform.
Yeah, and you, like, as well as I do, that like I want to get to that point of being able to, just be completely immersed. Like, immersion for me, like, is something I'm very, very interested in. Like, I loved, like, I enjoyed Sword Art Online. I really, really enjoyed the first season, and the other, well, not the second season. So no, the second season was but there was like, there were a couple of other seasons. I like Alicization as well. Like, I love the idea of VR immersion, where you are completely just throwing yourself in an experience to the point where you can like feel and touch things, where there's tactile feedback coming back to you. Like, I want that experience. I desire that to a great degree. And I think you may be right. I think I just have not been exposed to VR consistently enough, and that's probably something I'll have to try. I think that'll be probably a very good experiment to try. What happens to someone who is so deeply engrossed in reality, like as I am, that what happens when I'm exposed to VR every day for like 2 weeks? Wait, would you say 2 weeks is a good period of time, or should it be like more?
I think 2 weeks should be fine, so long as you really are dedicated. You know what I mean? Like, if you say for example, play all day, go into the night, you do your nightly routine, go to bed, and get up to your breakfast and make sure that you're awake, get straight back into it. If you really are wanting to speed up that process and definitely just, I would say dive, into it, but it's more of conditioning and training your body to get used to the fact that you
exist
are
here.
where you are, and it's really just trying to disconnect your mind from your physical self. Like, you still feel like where you're at and everything, and that will never change. But being able to project a mental image of yourself through your eyes, it sounds a little confusing, but that's the best way I can describe it. And even then, I haven't been on VRChat a little bit. I've been a little bit busy. I've been working a whole bunch, but even getting back into it, for the first 10 minutes after I got back in here, I was like, okay, I'm back on VRChat, whatever. But it's just, I was so used to it that it's just come back so naturally.
Like riding a bike.
To where, yeah, once you know how to ride a bike, you'll never forget it.
Yeah.
You learned how to balance yourself. You know how to pedal. It's pretty much exactly like that. It's just, if you are going to do that, I would definitely recommend sticking to it as much as you can. And I know a lot of the internet is like, you fall asleep in a video game? Listen. When I was on here all the time, hardly any breaks, you can essentially experience two different realities. And it just becomes, okay, I'm tired, I'm gonna close my eyes, and you forget the stuff's on your face. So it's just, okay, I'm tired, and you're out.
I mean, I feel like I can definitely get there, because the first time that I spent time with you, I literally was in, I think I was in VRChat the longest. That may have been the longest even to date that I've been in VRChat, because I logged in at around maybe 10, maybe 10:30, 11 p.m. And I was basically up talking to you until 7:30, 8 o'clock a.m. So
yeah, I believe it was 8 in the morning, because I had to go to work at 9.
Yeah, it was 8:30. It was, yeah, and it was that complete immersion, and then having that end, and then removing the headset was so jarring, but it was so nice to have been there, and we were just kind of hanging out, talking, we're just completely engaged, and then it was just well, it's over and I have to go back. And that was one of the few times that I really felt that. And I think maybe it has something to do with just the extended period of time that I was in VRChat and engaged to such a degree. And if I can replicate that more often, maybe I could even get to a point where I can feel Phantom Sense, maybe, hopefully, at some point.
And Phantom Sense is a great thing to talk about as well, because
let's talk about it.
There's a lot of people that play this that have full body. And if you do this, they can feel it 110%. And even in my experience, I'm only half body, which is the face and the arms. And so long as I can see it, and it's more so the top half, because half body.
Right.
And the thing, I can feel it. And with Phantom Sense, it's hard to describe to people that don't necessarily have it or have experienced a situation where it's real. The closest thing I can say is if you have your phone set to vibrate, and you're just so used to feeling it vibrate in your pocket, and then every once in a while you'll feel your leg vibrate, but nothing will happen, nothing has happened. That is the closest thing I can say to what Phantom Sense is. Except when it's this, it's significantly more. Like I said, I haven't been on VRChat in a while, but I can still feel this. You know what I mean? I feel my arm is here. Obviously, it's a little bit different when it comes to touching your shoulders and stuff and getting close to the headset, because the tracking gets a little bit weird.
Yeah.
But,
But like when it's someone else doing it, like if it's someone else,
110%.
Like that is.
Yeah, I can.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, I know we have fandom sense. That's not a surprise to me. I already know. So I already have your consent.
Of
so.
course. Let's just. It's just trying to describe that to people. The phone in the vibration thing is the closest thing that I can sort of normal people would experience and understand. But when it comes to like having, like you touch my shoulder or me touch my arm or something like that, it's think of a slight tingling sensation that traces the outline of whatever is touching you. So in the sense, the finger, like I feel the absence of a feeling in a specific spot on my arm. Everywhere else around it that surrounds it, it sort of like radiates off of it.
So it's like a centering, like it's like a focusing of it. Like you can like, it's like you're focusing on.
It's like a wave.
Right. Okay. Huh. Yeah. Have weird
tracking. You put your hand in a thing of water.
Yeah.
I understand. You put your hand in a thing of water and it will radiate out from that. But so long as you leave your hand there, the wave won't go into that space. So you can feel that the hand is there by everything else happening around it. And that's how it is for me, at least.
Yeah, and like I've heard that there are different kinds of sensations that people experience. Like some people experience warmth, some people experience tingliness. Yeah. I think for me, like to whatever degree I've been able to feel it, I think for me it would probably be warmth. I think, but I'm still very much like outside of like the realm of phantom sense. And like how was it? I've actually funny story. I one time when I was in VRChat like a couple of months ago, I met this random guy. Cal and I were going on our adventures, and we met this random guy. Talked him up for a little while, and instead of just leaving him behind because he was actually pretty lonely, because he was new to VRChat and he didn't really know what to do or how to really conduct himself. So like we actually took him. I invited him along with us. We took him to various places to help him find an avatar. We did eventually help him find a Halo avatar because he likes Halo. But the moral of the story is, well, it's not really a moral, but what happened was we took him to this one world, and basically he I think it was either me or Cal approached him and just kind of like just went right up to him and like just like touched him, and he freaked out. Like 110%, 0 to 60, freaked the fuck out from like just being like touched, because he's like, what the fuck was that? Like, what just happened? And so like, we did it again, and he had the same reaction. And like seeing someone not know that they have phantom sense, realize that they have phantom sense, was so infuriating. To be honest with you, it was so infuriating, because like this guy doesn't know anything about VRChat, but he immediately had it, and just like, why can't I have it? So like, gosh, like, so how did you realize you had it, and like what was that like for you?
Well, for me, specifically, a lot of it comes from, at least at the beginning anyway, from audio. I'm very sensitive to things happening around my ears, and like the way that things sound, and the way that my body responds to it. And so, that's where it started. And when it comes to being able to, when it came to like finding out that I was able to feel things, a lot of it, at least at the beginning, was influenced at the same time by the sensations that was happening in my ears and around them. And so I was able to essentially mirror the feeling to whatever part of my body is, experiencing phantom sense. And after a while, it just sort of became a natural thing to just be able to experience the sensation on my arm without having to have any kind of like prerequisites to it.
I see. So it stemmed from your sensitivity to sound. And so do you have that outside of VR? Do you have like an extra special sensitivity?
Oh, yes, but not to the same degree. Because in real life you have, I mean, it's in VRChat too, and in VR specifically, but it's also, in real life there's a lot more spatial sound. And it's not as sensitive because it's not speakers right on your ears. But when it comes to the stuff that happens in VRChat, it's so much directly next to your ear that it just amplifies what you would normally experience. And that's where it generally came from.
I see. Yeah, I'm so jealous of people who just kind of they just have it. Like I'm actually convinced that I'm actually convinced that I've lived too long. I've gone through too much in my life, and now I've had a chance to really be engrossed and have this experience in this virtual space, and I love it so much and I appreciate every moment of it. And at the same time, it's just like, well, I've just experienced and gone through too much in reality to even have any, like, to have the disconnect happen. And it's just, it's kind of discouraging, but I'm trying my best to try to learn it. And, I don't know if I ever will, but I think I'm going to try, like, just being in VR a lot more, because I think I just need to brute force. Maybe I need to just brute force it. Like, I don't know. Like, just a brute force experience.
Yeah. And honestly, I think if you do that, something that I would recommend trying to do, if you're wanting to, I mean, the disconnect will happen when it happens.
Right, you won't realize it.
But when it comes to feeling your arm and whatnot, the easiest spot is the wrist, because the tracking is a lot easier to keep track of. But sticking your finger out and touching that part on your wrist that mirrors what you have in the game, closing your eyes, focusing on the feeling, and then opening and realizing that you are also touching that same spot in VR, that is the easiest way that I've found to sort of help describe how to do it without being this master of knowing exactly how it works.
Right. So like you said, closing your eyes and then actually like touching yourself physically on your wrist.
Yeah. Yep. So like, I have the normal Rift, which just has those rings around the outside. So if I slide my hand forward a little bit into the rings and stick out my finger, my hand is here. I see, I feel that my hand is right here and my finger is extended. And so when I go to touch my wrist, obviously with VR, you have to adjust your controllers a little bit to make sure that what you're touching makes sense with what you're feeling. And then before you start moving anything, making sure that you know that your hand is lined up right, and then closing your eyes, focusing on how it feels. And not necessarily how it feels to have your finger on your arm, but what it feels like around it. The sensation, like the waves that I was talking about.
Yeah.
And then opening your eyes and seeing that you are doing the same exact thing in game.
Gotcha. And like, how important would, like, obviously calibration is important, but I've been very lazy about this, but I feel like sometimes I feel like I'm touching like my avatar, but then like now I get to the points where I'm going up my arm, and I'm not touching my arm. So, is that just calibration?
It can be anything from whether the avatar is rigged to calibration to just the way that your sensors are picking up your controllers, and it's a lot of different things, which is why I try and stick around to the wrist and like the hand. With the hand, you'll have clipping.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit hard to ignore for some people. But if you're able to, like right now, I'm touching my knuckle with my finger.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If I stick out the other finger, it bumps in my controller. So it comes with being able to ignore your peripherals to a certain degree. And being able to, this other finger is clipping into the end of the other finger, even though that's not actually what's happening in real life.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have, at least for this specifically, you have to have a sense of imagination. It sounds.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
Childish to say that.
Yeah.
You have to be able to imagine the feeling and get past the obvious things when it comes to the VRChat. Like I can still do this with my fingers.
Yes.
My fingers aren't inside of each other at all. You know what I mean? It's just you have to be able to use your brain to get past some of those limitations.
Yeah, that makes
and
sense.
When you experience that disconnect that you haven't gotten yet, that helps tremendously. Because you're able to put yourself into the experience, which significantly helps.
I'm definitely just I'm gonna take that and see what I can do with that at some point. But I think that's something I will have to do. Maybe, I'm actually gonna be, well, I don't need to talk about that. That's my business. So like I have a means of which I can actually start this experiment, is what I'm saying. So yeah. But regardless of that, you said you have been out of VRChat for quite some time, and I'm sure it's just a very basic reason, but I guess for what reasons have you been away from VRChat recently? If you're okay with sharing.
No, of course. Well, through VRChat, I did manage to find someone that I connect with a lot. And me and her are dating. You know that, they don't.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things. Try and think of that as like a, you have like a work wife or a work husband. You know what I mean?
Feel free to explain.
It's just you joke around. You have a good friend at work. You have a work wife, work husband.
Oh,
and
okay,
goes
gotcha.
Past that,
Yeah.
It's a lot like that. You know what I mean? It's I'm playing a game. Hello, hey there, person. And then it gets a little bit closer, and you're like, you know what? You're pretty fucking cool. How about we take this outside of this and experience other things together? And that's sort of how it starts, at least for me anyway. So there's that. I've been doing other things. In addition to that, I've also been working a lot, multiple weeks, without having a day off in a 7-day period. So it's been a lot of 7 days, have a day or two off, 7 days, have a day or two off. And it's just, if I'm going to spend my evenings, because I'm a closer, which I usually get off at, anywhere between 9 and 9:30, it definitely takes away from my time to be able to do things. And in VRChat, you can spend time, but time goes so fast when you are able to really get immersed into that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would rather spend my nights doing something, with my girlfriend or something like that.
Yeah.
That's able to slow down time, so I feel like I'm able to actually relax and enjoy the couple hours I get at the night.
Yeah, have more, just a dilation of time where you can actually enjoy what you're doing and not simply be lost in a space where time is just gonna speed up Because time does tend to speed up in VRChat for sure.
No, I mean, for sure. I mean, think about the day that we met, and you know.
Yeah.
Shit, that was what?
Yeah, that was
hours?
it was 8 hours. Yeah. It didn't feel that way though, but it was just like I took off the headset and there's like sun shining through my window, and it was holy shit. It was a lot. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's really like the beauty of it though. And like it's like you were saying before that you were in VRChat constantly, like all the time. So I guess what changed for you in your life that I guess shifted you away to do other things, from spending every waking moment in VRChat to you know, going beyond that?
Mm-hmm. Well, before I say anything specific about that, VRChat has a lot of different communities.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have, you know, just the standard player base, you have, you know, ERP, you have, you know, drinking, you have these countless amounts of subgroups in the VRChat community that you, I mean, generally you'll find your little niche and click into. But for me, when I, you know, got my headset, I had recently moved out, you know, 22. It's like, all right, cool. You know, I'm going to go buy alcohol and whatnot. And a lot of the people that I knew before that had VR before I did, they would, you know, they would get on and be like, hey, let's, you know, drink, let's party, that kind of thing. And they're not like me where they're able to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, hanging out with them, it's like, all right, well, shit, I want to join it. I don't want to be the prude over here with water.
Yeah.
So, you know, I started doing that a little bit more, and you gotta be careful not to get carried away. And it's like, okay. I mean, shit. There was one night I almost finished 2 bottles of vodka by myself. No mixes, just straight.
Yeah, what was it?
It's just...
I may have been around. I don't think I was around, but that sounds like an instance where I was around, but probably not.
I think you were there at one point, but my girlfriend was there, and without getting a little bit too descriptive, I blacked out a couple times. Stuff ended up on me. It was a bad time, and it's if you're able to get immersed into it, you need to be very careful.
Yeah.
You know, depending on which group you get into. And for me, it was like, okay, I'm starting to develop a habit and a problem. I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna, you know, become, you know, an alcoholic because of, you know, a game and the people that I play with. And so I took a break from that, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna take a couple steps back here and sort of distance myself a little bit. And so I think after that is when I started to step away from VRChat a little bit, because of how immersed I'm able to get. So, yeah, I mean, referencing back to the night that we met.
Yeah.
I was this little tiny avatar sloshed off my ass.
Yeah. That was definitely one of the most memorable of experiences for me, and it will definitely stay with me, probably forever. And it was so very funny. Yeah, but like I
and the thing is, like, with sorry, I didn't mean
no,
there,
you're fine.
but
No.
when it comes to VRChat and like specifically drinking in VRChat, it's the same thing as if you were at
a
someplace
party,
in person.
like you're out partying in a bar or pub.
Yeah, and so you will get people that go so far out of their way to be so extreme for no reason, and
Just
it's
to fit in. It's to fit in.
You just need, you just need to be careful who you interact with if you are going to do that kind of stuff. You know, I'm one of my good buddies that I know on here. Yeah, he was gone for like a month and a half because of his job. He came back and was like, let's party. And I was like, oh my god, bro. I can't. And it's just, I don't know. You got to be careful, whether it's VRChat or not. You just need to make sure you don't overdo yourself.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's something that everyone should really keep in mind. That's absolutely, drink responsibly. Always drink responsibly, 100%, no matter what you're doing, especially if you are in VR and you're surrounded by people who are just, getting drunk themselves. So, be mindful.
And I will say this, drinking in VR, in person, you are where you're at. Definitely gets a little bit spacey. You have to be very careful if you are trying to stand up and do anything in VR while drinking, if you get past a certain point, because your depth perception, your entire equilibrium is completely off, and you gotta be so careful.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. I've only gotten drunk in VRChat. Actually, I don't think I ever have. If I'm being honest, I honestly don't think I have. Maybe one time. Maybe there was one time when I was able to get drunk. But every time that I've actually tried to drink while in VR, I was never able to get drunk. And I only drink to get drunk. There's no other reason why I'm doing it. I'm not doing it to fit in. I'm not doing it because other people are doing it. I'm doing it because I want to get drunk, and I want to just enjoy that.
Mm-hmm.
And in a lot of ways for me, getting drunk is that ability that allows me to distance myself from my utter groundedness in reality. It's I'm so grounded, and it's nice to kind of just be able to be released of that for a little while, and that's generally why I do it. So I know everyone has their reasons, but yeah, I would guess that the majority of people who are drinking or who gather in groups and those communities of drinking, they do it just to kind of fit in. And I've actually watched a VR related video about how careful you need to be to when you're in these communities where people are just actively drinking, because it's very easy to get sucked in to what they're doing just so you can feel like you're part of the group. So yeah. Definitely be mindful. It's important. So, with all of that out of the way, I suppose I do have to, well, I mean, it doesn't have to be anything. Actually, hold on. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Is there anything that's just generally on your mind that you'd like to talk about, or anything that you've been thinking about, or it could be of any, it doesn't matter what it is, but if it's something that you want to talk about, I'm definitely open to it.
When it comes to something to talk about, I mean, the most recent update to VRChat, I understand why they for those that don't know, VRChat has implemented a anti-cheat into their game. For the just for mods in general, and it's the majority of that is for malicious stuff.
It's aimed at the
people
malicious.
Taking their other people's IPs, doxing people, ripping people's avatars, that whole thing. That's what it's aimed for.
Yes.
But they took everything out.
Yeah.
The entire floor from the entire community.
But they all, well, okay, I'll let you finish before I jump in, but go ahead.
Yeah. And personally, at least in my eyes, good intentions, yes. Done correctly, no. When it comes to I used to use, just general quality of life stuff.
Yeah.
And for me, it's, oh man, I don't have those features anymore. This sucks. But there are people that play VRChat that are deaf, that use external files, whatever it is, external programs, whatever it is, to enjoy this experience. and they just completely cut off that entire community. And I don't know if you know or not, but just generally, I'm just going to say the impaired community on VRChat is significantly larger than what I think anyone ever actually realizes. Like, there are worlds and classes, like legitimate classes, in VRChat to learn the sign language that they have developed in VRChat for people that are deaf.
Right, okay.
And they just took away all these extra tools, all the extra quality of life stuff that they had to experience this. They just took everything out. And that's where a lot of the issue is, at least with the general community. When it comes to, why everyone's, mad right now. And it's one of those things that, for those that don't experience VRChat, like, regularly or keep up with it, it's one of those things where good intentions were meant, but they just completely did it the wrong way. And it's sad to see, especially for something that I know I've spent, I don't even know exactly how many hours I've spent on this. And it's sad to see that everything's up in flames because they didn't think about something like that.
Yeah, I'm basically in the same camp as you. I definitely see the good intentions. I read the entire announcement. It seems you did too. You're using a lot of the language that was written in that document, and it definitely, they had good intentions for it. And they also they mentioned that they wanted to ensure that they wanted to reassure everyone that they would be going back and adding in some quality of life things. They're like, oh yeah, we know people use quality of life mods. We know that there are some ways that people use to, improve their experience in the game that aren't malicious at all, like non-malicious stuff. So like, they're aware that there are non-malicious stuff, and they said they'd go back and add those in. But I think, yeah, like, I personally did not know that the impaired community was that large. I'd be like, I can't say that with confidence, so I'm not going to say that. So I can understand why people are upset. To me, it kind of seems like a resistance to change in a lot of ways. But at the same time, I do know that there are people who legitimately were able to use VRChat because of those mods. Like, my experience and my exposure to the mod community seems to largely be quality of life, and just to, like, they're not really doing anything that's meant to, like, be malicious at all. And that's my exposure to the mod community. And like, I know there are some people who are like, well, there are people who have dedicated years to creating mods for VRChat. And to me, that, yes, that is true, but they did that with the knowledge that VRChat didn't appreciate that. Like, and that to me is just like, well, they did it with good intentions to, like, provide quality of life stuff, but I think it's important to remember that just VRChat was not, particularly keen on just mods in general, so they basically just X'd everything, which I agree. The easy anti-cheat was heavy-handed. Let me just say that outright. It was heavy-handed. It got rid of everything all at once. And despite them being very clear about them wanting to include the non-malicious stuff and quality of life stuff, they still have put people in a very difficult spot where they now don't have those options currently. And VRChat they put out another announcement today, actually, about, like, yeah, we definitely hear you. You guys are not too happy, and we're gonna fast track a lot of the stuff that we already were intending to do, and we're also going to reach out to the mod community to see what we can do to add on to that list. So like the thing is, like, they are like they have been willing and eager to hear what other developers, other mod developers have in mind. So it's just really a matter of them working together to really work this out and to integrate all of the important things that are necessary into VRChat. But it is a shame that in their desire to hurriedly, I mean, I don't think it was hurriedly, but it gives the impression of it being hurriedly, of them wanting to protect people, because, you know, again, like you said, people are getting doxxed, people's clients are crashing. There's like legitimate actual issues that their trust and safety teams and their user support teams have encountered multiple times. But they've also encountered people who have had issues with their client, only for people to find out that it's the mod causing the issues. So it's a mixture of those two that probably led them to make that decision to just kind of like, let's just put this in, we'll put this failsafe in, and then we'll build off of that. But as you said, there are various communities who are just actively not in the best spot right now. So I'm in agreement. Like I have the same, like, I'm not as vehemently, I don't get very angry or frustrated over my emotions are very much in check in most cases. I think things very logically. So I understand the frustration and the anger towards it. I'm just hoping that people, I guess I hope more people can just understand where they're coming from, and that VRChat can have the resources and the people who will actually follow through on this and make VRChat even better than it's ever been. And like I'm hoping that this is a point in time that is a temporary issue where things are not too great with the community right now, but hopefully this will lead to something a lot better when everything that is needed is just in the game and you don't need mods for it. It's just there. Like, they were talking about portable mirrors and stuff and adding just basic stuff like that. Like, I think that they mean well, and I'm hopeful that they will make good on this.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with what you're saying, but when it comes to implementing the easy anti-cheat, before they did that, at least specifically for the impaired communities, they needed to have that stuff ready to implement with this update. Because now those groups are entirely stuck waiting.
Yeah, exactly.
For whenever they get that stuff done.
Yeah, which is why I get it.
The quality of life stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, when it comes to like quality of life stuff, you know, like the portable mirrors and, I mean, just shit. Avatar search. People have been asking for that since the game came out, and they still haven't done it. And they're like, oh, well, now that we pissed everyone off, we'll go ahead and add it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I understand you have good intentions to stop the malicious stuff, and as a community, I'm sure people appreciate that. But at the same time, though, you should have at least had something ready for a group of people that can't talk, that can't hear.
Yeah, and that boggles my mind that they didn't know that. Like, how did they not know that that was a thing in their community? That boggles my mind. That was neglected.
A couple hundred people. It is.
Yeah.
It was a very large population of VRChat. I would say, and if you split everything up into thirds, they make up at least a third of the community.
Yeah, I had no idea about that. I had no clue.
No, it is ridiculous. I forget who it is, but there are videos of people going through and, you know, doing essentially a documentary about the hearing impaired, and, you know, the impaired communities on VRChat. And it's crazy to see that they basically have developed an entire language for those people to be able to sit here like how you and me are and be able to communicate.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah,
for VR,
I have.
chat
Oh wait, go ahead. Sorry.
You're okay. But for VRChat as a support team, I don't know if you knew this or not, but I recently went through and watched something, especially since this update came out. I watched something earlier today about one of the tools that they would use to help. There was a tool that would add captions for other audio in the game. So say you were hearing impaired, you would have captions on the bottom of your screen or your headset or whatever it is to be able to read what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And for them to just axe everything and not have anything ready for them, now everyone's just stuck using the sign language that they developed, but without like the closed captioning or whatever it is. I can only imagine the amount of people that haven't learned the sign language. I can only imagine what they're experiencing right now, when it comes to like having friendships on here and just not being able to communicate at all. I don't know. It's like, an accident happens and you can't, you end up in a coma and you wake up and you're like, who the hell is this person?
Yeah.
It's just stuck not knowing, being able to communicate or do anything with anybody. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
A fine line of appreciation and being pissed.
Yeah, it's definitely disappointing. Like I'm on the same page. Like let it be known that like though my emotions are not running hot, that I can definitely understand why people are upset at the moment and why they're actively now boycotting VRChat. I know a lot of people have canceled their VRChat Plus accounts. Just they just I'm not giving you guys any more of my money until you fix this, if at all. And I've heard that people are going to be trying other platforms in the meantime, because there are some people who just will not log into VRChat anymore, because they're just so disappointed with the decision, which is really a shame. It's definitely 100% a shame. And yeah, again, it really boggles my mind that the user support teams and the trust and safety teams did not have any inclination that they will be cutting off a large swath of their player base, of their ability to communicate. How did they not know that? So I don't know, that bothers me. That bit bothers me. So, because I did hear at some point, maybe the last couple weeks ago, that I met someone who was actually looking to learn the VRChat sign language. That was the first time I'd heard that there was like a sign language that was being developed in this platform, and I thought that was really, really cool. I thought that was super, super cool. But that was completely missed, and now there's like nothing for them to communicate with. That's disappointing, and yeah, definitely frustrating, especially for, like you said, the friendships and the connections. Like that, this platform is all about making connections with people, about like having those meaningful interactions with people, and now 1/3 of their player base is unable to do so. How was that missed? I don't know. And I'm truly hoping that they make good on this. They absolutely have to. I know they're gonna be fast tracking things. What they'll be fast tracking remains to be seen. But I certainly hope that in the next 2 to 4 weeks, maybe we'll see some substantial answers being added. And again, like I said, I'm hoping that this error, that this misstep will just cause VRChat to grow into a much better platform that has more robust features than any other platform, and that it will just make VRChat better. I would like it to be better. I don't want to be upset with VRChat. I don't want to be ashamed to be doing a podcast that is in VRChat. I don't want to feel that. So like I would like the platform to be good, because I like VRChat and I think it's special for creators, for just people who have made friends here. Like I wouldn't want this misstep to just kind of blow all that up, but I'm hoping they can recover. I'm gonna keep using VRChat. I'm not angry enough to not use it anymore. I'm worried that maybe I won't see as many people on the platform for a while. It's kind of sad.
Yeah. I feel like if they're going to recover from this, the next update that they put out, they're either going to have to put out a bunch of really small ones with new features every single time, or drop this really big, here's everything that you have asked for, at least when it comes to the impaired.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I guarantee you 99% of the people on here that are pissed off about it would care less about having a portable mirror.
Yeah. That's very minuscule comparatively.
That's,
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, if they're going to try to recover from this, they are going to have to do it right and not be like, oh well, maybe this, maybe that. Oh look, we gave you a mirror. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're gonna have to not be like EA.
Yeah, please give us what we asked for. Give the community what they asked for. 100%. I'm 100% with you there. I'm hoping that they do incremental ones. Like, they can't really afford to just kind of wait. They need to immediately start doing stuff and start showing that they are working towards something. So I'm with you on that. Like, definitely more like a speedier flow of updates that will help make people feel a little bit less angry. And hopefully, you know, I still don't know how the mod communities are going to handle this, but what I do hope is that those who are involved in the mod community will be willing to communicate with VRChat so that the things that they've invented can just be put in the game. Like I said, it's when modders and developers, well, you can say, you know, developers and players, creators come together. That's when really cool shit gets made. So that's what I'm really, really hoping for, that's what happens. And it's not just everyone being salty about this, but that it opens the door for more communication between the people who are, you know, doing this for nothing. And, you know, they can then see their idea being implemented in this platform. And yeah, I want VRChat to be good, and I'm hoping that we can get there one way or another.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we kind of had to talk about that. There was no way that I could have a yeah. But I didn't want to talk about it if you weren't up to it. But yeah, like we absolutely had to cover that. The really crappy thing is this podcast isn't going to be out for like quite some time. That's the iffy part about it, which is unfortunate because, you know, this is like, I think episode 6 maybe, and I haven't even started releasing the podcasts yet. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
Be like VRChat and fast track it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like I kind of should. Maybe I should just, like, put this one out and just make it available. And, I mean, all the podcasts are standalone anyway, so it'll be fine. So, yeah, I'll probably do that. I think that'll be useful, just so, you know, people know what two people who use VRChat think. Has VRChat ever done anything like this in the past? Like, has there been any sort of, like, hiccups like this?
I believe there has, but I do not remember exactly what the drama was about. I forget exactly. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I do believe that there has been a, real big, what the fuck moment in the past. Oh man, for the life of me, I wish I could remember what it was about. But I know there has been some moments where everyone's very serious.
I see. Yeah, I was just curious about that since, you've been on this platform way longer than me. So I'm still very, very young comparatively to everyone else. Well, not everyone else, but I'm comparatively young on this platform. I'm like, what, 2.5, maybe 3 months old? I started on like late April, because you got your headset. Well, you got your headset like around like early May, I think, something like that.
Yeah, something around there.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm like 3 months old. So yeah, I'm still very, very young comparatively. So
Just a baby.
yeah, I'm still a baby. But uh, so to kind of wrap things up, is there anything that, well, I mean, I've already kind of asked you this, but is there anything that I can help you with? Anything that you may be going through? Anything that that you have been looking for, maybe advice or insight on, that I can potentially offer to you as someone who is not an accredited clinical psychologist, but as someone who has been giving literal advice to my friends since my teens. So I've been doing this for a very long time, even at the cost of my own mental health at times. So I'm just very, very well versed at, piecing and connecting the dots. So if there's anything that, is immediately on your mind that you feel comfortable talking about, maybe as a way to, offer some additional help and to someone who may be going through the same thing as you, this is your chance to talk about it if you want, if you have anything.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't really need any advice on anything right now, which I find a little funny because since like last night and then most of my morning, it was very, I don't know, defenses are up, half depressed all day. I ended up being able to get stuff worked out, and I ended up talking with somebody, and I'm good now. But when it comes to something that I can say for other people is, I mean, you'll hear it from anyone and everyone, don't be afraid to reach out. And if you have someone that that cares, it doesn't matter what's going on, they're going to hear you. They might not know exactly what to say, but most of the time, at least in my experience, I don't need people to tell me anything. I just need to get it out. That way I can properly think of everything that I have going on. It's sort of like you say it all out. You say it all at one time to one person, and you're able to put everything that you have going on into steps to be able to help figure that kind of thing out. And as something else is, with that, because for some people it might feel like they're taking a risk, is to make sure that you don't, I mean, obviously, just don't throw yourself off a cliff or anything, but don't be afraid to take risks when you know that you can. It might feel scary, it might feel like it's not the right thing to do, but sometimes you just have to do it. And in the sense of what I was talking about, sometimes that risk, it might feel like you're having to reach out to people, and it's one of those things that you definitely just need to try if you're trying to, figure some things out.
Yeah, like saying things out loud helps make it real. It gets it out of your head, because I think a lot of people don't realize just how difficult it is to process things that they haven't even voiced themselves. But saying it out of your mouth or writing it down just makes it that much more real, because you're seeing it or you're hearing it. And even better, if you're sharing it with someone, they can hear it too. And again, that just makes it more real, and that makes you more inclined to take the effort take the time to really synthesize what's going on, and hopefully come to your own conclusion and maybe solve the issue just from it getting out of your head and into someone else's head or on a piece of paper. So I agree with that. I think it's very, very important for people to remember that, there are people in your life that do care. And though it may feel like you're taking a risk with, sharing something with someone, if you absolutely need someone to talk to, you should definitely just reach out to the person that you trust. And if you don't have someone that you can trust, maybe go to your parents, or just never feel like that you have to handle it all on your own. There are very few things in life that you have to 100% handle on your own. There are a number of things that you do, but when it comes to, maybe relationship issues, or maybe just being uncertain about where to take your next job, or it could be anything, whether you should, spend your money on something ridiculous, getting it out of your head and just sharing with someone really makes all the difference, like Fresh said. So I'm definitely in agreement with that, and I endorse this message. So yeah.
And real quick, something to add is, when you were saying if you don't have someone to trust or someone to talk to, I feel like a lot of people I don't think they realize that go to your doctor. It's not, oh, I have this and I'm sick. They are a doctor. They can refer you to wherever you need to go, and everything with your doctor is generally really personable. And I mean, that's the first person that I actually was like, I have this in my life, in this baggage, and I want help. That's the first time I actually ever was like, this is what I have and this is what I need help with. And, they're a medical professional. They're there to listen and hear what you have going on. Yeah. So it's always a good first step, if you feel like you're afraid, is to go to a doctor.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. I think many people have stigmatized the idea of going to speak to a medical professional, and even if they don't have the means to help you, or they don't have the skills to help you, they will almost always have someone to refer you to. So as Fresh said, yeah, absolutely, don't be afraid to do that. It's much better than trying to go at it alone. And yeah, I would definitely encourage people to keep that in mind. And it's never a bad thing to need help. It's never a bad thing to just need someone to talk to. And I've certainly have needed people to talk to in my own life, with my own issues, and I've certainly have helped other people who have needed people to talk to, and I've been there for them. So yeah, definitely don't be afraid to do that. If you want to help yourself, you can help yourself, and you can get the help that you're looking for. And I 100% believe that you should do that as well. So I think that was a great positive note to leave off on, Fresh. That was a great note to leave off on. I agree. Yeah. So with that out the way, thank you so much for joining me, Fresh. This was a great conversation. It was great to catch up with you.
No, of course. I mean, when it comes to the people that I interact with on a pretty regular basis, you're definitely on my top of my list, honestly.
Aww.
I definitely, believe it or not, sometimes I believe I talk to you and certain other people more often than, even people I know in real life. I appreciate you guys, especially, when it comes to having a solid friendship. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, Fresh. Honestly, like I said earlier, Fresh is literally one of the first people. He is the first person where I actually felt a genuine connection with in VRChat. So, the fact that we've been able to maintain that, despite my ability to sometimes fuck things up or just be very bad at keeping in touch with people, is a testament to just how genuine the connection is and how much we really do value each other as individuals. So, and as friends. So so I'm very, very glad that we could have Fresh on, and that he was willing to participate in my experiment for world domination, for podcasting, becoming the next Joe Rogan. No, I'm kidding. So like, basically just being able to have my friend on and have a genuine conversation, because I have no script. I do this without a script. So it is literally just me talking with my guest, and I'm glad that I was able to do that tonight. So if you enjoyed tonight's podcast, if you enjoyed the podcast whenever you may be watching this, please remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below if there's something in the podcast that really caught your attention and that you'd like to give your own feedback on. Definitely, please feel free to do that. I'd love to hear from you, and I definitely do enjoy that kind of feedback. So with that done and all that said, I just want to thank Fresh once again for being awesome, for being a part of this podcast. It was great having you on. And we will go ahead and close things out. So I'll be looking forward to spending another podcast with you all. So please stay tuned for more. There will be more coming soon. And, again, please like, subscribe, and share. And leave a comment so I can hear from you very, very soon. But until then, bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.